everybody, Todd Gatewood here, coming to you live from Oklahoma. It is that 1 week or so before we get a week of rain, and I've got to make hay while the sun's shining, as they say. Thank you for tuning in today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget my merch section that you can find a link to below in the description. All the proceeds from this channel will go to help the Hooper Reservation Youth Scholarship Program, so we're all helping them together. Today's show's a rebroadcast from Randy Harrington, longtime Bigfoot researcher that you all know and have heard of. He has a YouTube channel called the Sensible Bigfoot Project. Please go over to that and like and subscribe. He's interviewing Alex Merkin, who is a longtime professional Hollywood producer, director, and creator of all sorts. You've seen his work if you don't know him personally. I'm going to list his bio in the link in the description to this video, so please go look at that and look at all his accomplishments. The man is amazing. In this video, it's a rebroadcast from Randy where we talk about my techniques in restoring the film and just what Alex thinks and if it's credible, laudable, and all those other sorts of things. So it's a very, very enjoyable and informing, kind of a prelude video to another one I'm going to make on the same subject. So I appreciate you guys tuning in, and I will see you soon.
Whatever tunes your knees to mush, they hit the lift. Even if you gotta sift through the shit to get to the twist, the smile I high like it's your very last. You'll never get another try. Do it loud, do it for the loud, for the here and now.
Ladies and gentlemen, aren't we after the truth on this subject? No matter what side of the fence you're on, whether you think this is a man in a suit or a complete fabrication or a hoax, or you believe Patty to be a living, breathing being that was captured on film that day, no matter where you stand on this, we should all be wanting the truth. The truth never hurt anyone. And that's what I'm after. So let's get into this conversation.
You know, Alex Merkin is a well-respected, and since he hit the scene, watched director, editor, producer. You know, man can do it all. And one of the things he's done is well-respected is he's put together an archival unit at the Strasberg School in New York City, which is highly respected, so people can preserve film and continue to study and appreciate those classics. And it's a total honor to visit with him and to just share some insights and talk. And really a high honor. What a great guy.
I've become friends with both of these gentlemen. They're both professionals. Alex Merkin is an American film director, screenwriter, producer, and editor. We've worked together for a couple of years now. I've come to know him as a man, and he is very interested in this subject. That's how we got involved. His love of this subject, his intrigue, the mystery, and he is well versed. When we talk about people, he'll know who we're talking about. He has watched probably as many videos as myself and Todd has on the subject. So he's well versed on it. That's why he's here, and his area of expertise involves film editing and things like that. So those are two good reasons to have him be involved in this conversation. And Todd, I don't know if I could even eloquently list all of the things. I did listen to what you said your background is. Can you give that? I can't give it because I would not do it justice. Can you tell us all of the,
I've never,
how did you get it? I mean, yeah.
I've never even had a resume. So I am a film archivist and preservation specialist, and I was trained at the University of Tulsa. I studied under Shan Goshorn, and I specialized in colorizing old photos with by hand with Marshall oils on Kodak Ectolure G paper. Was one of what got me really deep into the topic. So that's kind of what brings me here today. And I'm a lifelong fan of the Patterson film, and I've always followed it. When computers came out, I was highly involved in that whole scene. Home computing, from when it elevated off the bulletin board days from your local city, and when even bitmap picture files were just brand new, and so I've always collected those images when I could come across them, and I have all my hard drives still backed up on hard drives, and I've never lost. I've lost them, but I still have copies of everything. So it's just something I've stuck with through the years, and as it's progressed, so has the quality in the pictures.
So when you came, I saw the picture of the company you're working with as far as the technology is concerned, and then they're based out of Austria, I believe.
Yes, sir.
So what is the moment that you brought that together with this film and said to yourself, I'm going to put these two items together?
Okay, so it's been a dream to get a copy of the Patterson film and try to archive it of mine. And through MK Davis, who's a well-respected, everybody knows MK Davis as a researcher. Folks, don't spank me. I'm saying his name. I didn't mention him in a video, and I've caught heat for it, a lot of heat. But then again, you catch heat in the Bigfoot world, no matter what you do. But through MK Davis, I was able to meet some people that had a copy of the film who wanted me to archive it, and that's what I have done. So and it came together. So in doing that, it's like, okay, they saw my work, and it's like, we want you to do this. And then I need to build a system to do this. And so I knew one thing: it wasn't going to go on any kind of film scanner and get ran through at speed. It was going to be done one frame at a time. And in the old days, I really wanted to do it with a 4x5. Even I'd thought about it for a long time. I have this what a 4x5 is this size of a negative, and if it had been before the computer days, I would have copied it with a camera a Hasselblad that would have photographed it that way. But as it turns out, I photographed it with this beast, and it's a Sony and a A7 IV. That Sony is impressive in several aspects. It's the sensor on it is actually larger than the frame itself, and this is a 16 millimeter frame. I know Randy's going to show one on the screen as well. It's just one single frame of film, and so the sensor on the camera is much larger than this little square. So much so I always equated it to like having the film fall into the camera. But before, when you had a sensor on a digital camera take a picture, up till recently, it was always smaller than that. So there would be some compression involved. And I wasn't going to use a scanner. That's improper. And this was the only way. There was another camera in the lineup to do this. And it was just so hard coordinating. I didn't do it with that camera, but it's the price of a very nice house type camera. And I still felt only the biggest difference in the resolution was the color scales used, and I went with what I went with. And I knew that whatever decision I'd make to use the equipment, it'd be questioned to death and picked apart and criticized in the future. So I wanted to try to make it as the best possible method. In that system that you see, I built with the help of Danny Birchfield uh, a way to roll the film across a light table with diffused light. That's another big point. The film has always been copied with hard light, as Alex knows, like a projector type light, and this really enhances scratches and dust. It was with diffused light. A lot of that just is not there, which is really cool. It's less work for me, but it's still going to get, it still has a lot. So uh, the film itself is in really poor shape. It was kept in under a seat of a pickup truck for I don't know how long, and I was told that. And it did come from Eric Beckford. It's a really good copy of, I believe, the first copy of the Patterson film. Now, people will have seen my work, like what's behind me. This is actually a printout that's behind me. It's not a green screen. And I'll get into some of that about film restoration, just even from single frames. But but it's not of that quality yet. I know with the techniques, and Alex knows that you don't have to have the master to restore something back to master or better quality, as was the case with Metropolis. So I built this system to go up there and do it. And really, that's what I was focused on for 2 years, man. I thought, I'll worry about putting it together and everything that comes after that once it's in the can, because that's all I got to do now. And it's this single-minded thing. I knew there was a part two, but part two is a waste of time if part one never happens. So I stayed focused on part one, archive it. I contacted everybody in the Bigfoot world, and nobody wanted to deal with me. I started, it's like, you do something great for and I wanted to show MK because I used one of his images in a layer underneath. I layer images and stack them to get different resolution from a picture. Try to get better resolution, but there's also effects, as Alex knows. But and I contacted him because I thought, well, I'm going to give him credit if he doesn't mind. I just thought, well, it'll find its way to the internet, and I didn't really, that's all. I didn't know the groups even existed, other than what was on the cable television. That was it for Bigfootville and me. I didn't realize there was a whole ugly world online about it. So he came out and he broke my work out, and so that's kind of what got me up to the film. That's that part in a nutshell. I did a portrait of Patty, and that portrait was from the original 16 millimeter frame that I don't have. But it was from Roger's original, and it was copied by DeHenden and a guy named, there he is, Bruce Bonney, on this size of a negative. And you're going to show the people how much details in this size of a negative. And it's just had all the information in it. That site and that picture is gone, and it doesn't exist out there anymore. In its present state, exists in lots of different little states. But so with that, there was so much detail. He had photographed it in black and white, and black and white is the sharpest. The Patterson film was shot on Kodak Kodachrome 2, and that's a color film, 3-color film. But it's actually it's like all color film. It can be developed black and white. When you develop it as a color film, the grains that create the image dissolve away. So then again, and also you have a color positive when it's developed. There's no negative to the film. So they would copy it through contact printing, physically printing 2 pieces, or with an optical printer. Subsequently, every version of that would degrade just a little bit because the grain is gone, and so you get shadowy type effects. So it gets fuzzier and fuzzier and fuzzier. So by the time it's down to the 3rd grain, or 4th generation copy, it just looks terrible. Then broadcasters would put it on and they'd pump up the contrast a lot of times to make it brighter, and that washes all the detail out. And so people would say, there's no way you could get that kind of quality out of that film. And that's just not true. It's just not true.
All right. Well, hey, Alex, I've got a glazed over look on my face right now because this is so far out of my wheelhouse of understanding. What's your take on the explanations of all of these components?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Todd's an expert in this field, and he's very well versed in it. You can tell, but with anything, it's like I used to work in film. Everything now, I used to shoot on film. I used to shoot on 16 millimeter.
Now, Alex mentions doing a lot of work in the past with 16 millimeter film stock. So here's a list of TV shows and movies that you may not be aware of that involve the same 16 millimeter format.
Parts of it is the color is the actual color correction process of the film. I mean, you have no idea how much detail you can get when you're an expert in actually going into the film, there's so many panels and so many things that you can control and tweak to get detail. There's so much information that's stored on a film negative. And people don't really appreciate how important that process is. When every time you shoot anything on film, as a filmmaker, it never looks anywhere near what it's going to look like until you've gone through the full color correction process. And I used to spend time at the film labs. Where there used to be all these, now that everything's digital, color correction process is a little different, but it is one of the most important parts. People have no idea how much information gets stored on these film negatives. So, I mean, what he's saying is 100% right. It's about how these things were how the actual film negatives were transferred, and then how they were color corrected and the detail that was pulled out of it. And then again, with all these things, for the most part, everything we're always seeing is video of a copy of a copy of a copy. I'm thrilled with what he's been, with the process that he's talking about, because.
Okay. So here's where I need to interject, because finally we can talk about a part of this, a component of this, where me as a layman just observing and a student of taking in details and the logic of the whole thing, we should all want clarity in this video, because that's where the truth is. So up till now, there has been four copies removed, taken from a TV screen or whatever, and you've got so many deviations in the film. You've got people trying to interpret those deviations as being something physical within the film itself. That has diluted and muddied we've wasted so much time over the last couple of decades chasing phantoms in this video that are really not there, that has the potential to be uncovered for us to view right now the same way they saw it that day that they captured this film. And I'd also like to throw in, this may end up being an exoneration for Bob Gimlin, who deserves it if it proves to be true. He deserves to not be hassled about things, that may not have happened if that's what the clarity of this film now shows did not happen. I mean, God bless the guy. He's stuck to his guns on the original version of what happened here, and he's had to put up with a lot to, in other regards. Now, I also want to say, for a long stretch of time, I don't know if it's happening now, but for a long stretch of time over the last 5 years. I believe Russell Accord was Bob Gimlin's manager, somewhat manager. I guarantee you they became friends. Bob Gimlin benefited from this relationship. It helped him out immensely. If he got, no matter what amount of money he got from Russell Accord handling him and his public persona, Bob benefited from that. God bless him. He's at an age where every little bit helps in the pocket. So, but my point is, they became friends. They had lots and lots of discussions. We only see just a little bit that became public. I guarantee you, if there was any more on that film, Russell would have taken advantage of that, would have gotten it out of Bob Gimlin, and certainly turned that into a money-making whatever, whether it be a documentary or a book or whatever. So that fact alone tells me that a lot of the things that we think happened in this didn't happen.
I think from watching the film frame by frame every day it takes 10 minutes at 1 second a frame practically. And it takes 10 minutes, and because I'm a masochist, but I think it happened exactly the way Roger and Bob say. I see no other evidence in that film to indicate otherwise. It's a continuous film. By the way, I'm in very close contact with Bill Munns. He's had some situations with the fires going on and other things in his life. He's a super busy guy and just running from fires right now. But he's okay at this time, at last I heard. But he's helped me a lot and give me a lot of input to this. He doesn't do social media because he knows that with the keyboard, people lose all ethics and they'll just say anything. So he doesn't participate in that. But Bill's gone through his book, and I would suggest that anyone out there that does not have this book, that you go out and get When Roger Met Patty by William Munns, yeah. Bill Munns. It's a great book, and it's kind of a thick read in some spots. So, but you should have it in your Bigfoot library. It's definitely technical, and he points out each time Roger's finger slipped on it. There's no edits in the film, or you'd see them, and they're just not. It's just a few camera stops, and while a guy's running after a crazy thing that he's witnessing. He's been looking for him for 6 years. One of the biggest clues to me on this whole mystery was Roger Patterson was a filmmaker. They always started out like that. Roger Patterson was a filmmaker. And yet you see this film is just awful. And it just makes someone think, well, gosh, that's not very good filmmaker. And then after you soak on it long enough, you figure you're just looking at bad copies. And then you start getting into the mystery of where's the good stuff. And that's definitely what I wanted to pursue. I will say this, that on the portrait, on the original film, I believe that a couple things, a man in a suit or 350 pounds, 6'3". Those are simply arguments, and those arguments are meant to keep you talking about what's not important on the film. Which side of your family is that cousin from? That's not a monkey. And that's what they didn't want to address in 1967 America, just a few months after what happened at the Lorraine in Memphis, Tennessee. So there's a lot to this story, but those arguments are just there. In my portrait, where you can see clearly her features, someone with incredible imagination has come up that there's a reflection of a person in her eye. I have just around this picture a full-size blow-up of it, and I don't see it. I mean, come on, guys. I can see when we lay on the beach and all these, pretty good clouds that look mostly like what you say, but anyway, it's not there, but they're going to say that because it's an argument, and that argument is to keep you from talking about what is important as the type of what we're dealing with here. And let's just say this, they don't, I'll say this for sure, they don't need technology. Everything that we're doing, my shirt, this camera, the building around me, it's all technology driven. And without it, I think we would all just pretty much die, or we'd be in skins and having flint knives and that sort, and bows, which are technology. And they just don't need it. So
Well,
superior.
I'd like to touch up on one component of what you just said previous to this statement here, where you were talking about uh, they would be some type of cousin of ours. And I've got to reiterate a video that I did with MK recently, talking about the go road that was cut through there, which where this kind of all started, going nationwide because of the proliferation of newspapers connecting with each other nationwide at that point. So that's why it busted out so big. But I did not know the components that MK shared with me about what was going on with the forestry companies and the taking over of the land up there, and just the dynamics and the government involvement. And I am just we've speculated all along just how much the government keeps their thumb on some of these things. I was not really aware of, at that point, at the very beginning, that they were there and they were pulling the wool and they were putting up the curtains as best they could at that moment. I'm just fascinated with it.
Well, and also they've just once again terrible treatment of the Native Americans, and that's their land, and that's spiritually important to them, and they don't want a road through it, and they didn't want the Go Road. It connected. It would have. It's just bad. That's a great video by MK Davis on his Facebook page. Go out and find it. The Go Road video. I love that video. So
yeah. Wow. So when you reached out to this company and you said, "Hey, you've got some equipment that tell me about that conversation." I can only imagine, especially.
So, sure, man. Oh, yeah. Look, I've got a theory. I was in wealth management 30 years, and the answer is always no if you don't ask. Think of that. So, after I got back with it all, I just wanted to, actually, I didn't want to do anything for like 2 weeks except chores around my farm because I had neglected it for 2 years. By the way, during that 2-year process, what I had done daily, I bought every 1967 Kodachrome 16 millimeter film that eBay had. I just was like, well, don't try to buy it if I'm bidding on it, because you're going to lose. And I just bought everything that I could. And what I would do is I would come out to my studio here and I would place it in my through my reels, thread it, start from the beginning every morning, and I'd go through the process and copy approximately 1,000 frames. Exhausting. And I hurt so bad from when I finished it. I took a week to walk straight, I think, because.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm interjecting here just to go over the amount of effort that has been put into this project by Todd. You have to appreciate the effort. You have no idea how much time and effort has been put into this. It deserves acknowledgement, and that's what I'm doing right here. Just to take a side on this because you think it hurts somebody's feelings, or you think that it was acquired in an improper way, or all of these things, for you to take that stance is a very limited understanding. You don't know what went on. You don't know how he got this. You don't know the effort he put into this or the reasons why. So to form an opinion, that's your right. But just because I back in the 80s, I deposited some film negatives to a little kiosk in the parking lot of the local mall, and picked them up 24 hours later, and voila, I've got my pictures developed in 24 hours. Doesn't make me a film expert. So I would rather concede all of this to those who are experts, and then I'll take my cue from them. Just because I had film developed back in the 80s in a 24-hour film kiosk doesn't make me any kind of expert. And I'm sure that's going to be offended. I'm going to offend people by saying that. But there's not going to be any limited opinions on this. Instead of just taking the information in and hoping that we just get to the truth, there's going to be a lot of opinions, and people do what they do. They're unhappy about whatever aspect of this they're going to be unhappy about. But me, I am happy. I just want the truth.
Camera focuses. I used a 32-inch monitor, and Randy will put the picture up of the rig that I built for it. But the camera will outline automatically within the picture what is the most in focus point. And so if you have an experience with the Sony camera, it's really brilliant. So then it would say, then what I would do is I would manually adjust the focus to the hard edge of that surface, whether it was her line on her body, her right side, left side, wherever it was, near the center weight of the photograph. And so this just took time. It just took time. So when I did that daily for 2 years, it's exhaustive work. So then when I got back, I kind of decompressed from it all, did some farm chores, all that sort of stuff. And that let me just kind of do what I call meditative work, where I'm just in body, working beehives or whatever. My mind is somewhere else. And so I started thinking about the restoration and the different companies. I know about the film process. And I was, there's another software company that's out there, but I thought Diamant was the best in what they did, because it's customized software. It's a hard learning curve, but it's not AI. It's literally using just like I use like a linear algorithm, which there are types of artificial intelligence, AI, and upscale that will hallucinate and build things into a picture. But we've always had linear algorithms, and they're just better now. And there's no AI to that. And it could see in that portrait that I did, it could see things we can't see.
In the close-up portrait where you can see hair, and of course I'd like him to describe how it was able to see the hair, but there was a bright white spot at the nose, and clearly in the picture it just looks like almost something fake, but it's probably some snot on the corner that are coming out of the nose, or maybe a snot bubble. But it's amazing that when you look at it that way, I mean, you've seen cows with their noses. You see the snot bubbles. Anything out in the open, that might not be a concern of theirs to keep their nose clean the way you and I would with a tissue. And so it just makes sense. And I'm fascinated with this whole process.
And let's credit MK, because he's got fans out there that will correct me if I don't mention him. Man, MK was keyed on that. That's a snot bubble, and that actually the white spot is the sun. You and I got to talking about it, and I really got to focusing on it, and I thought, well, that's the sun. It has to be, because of the direction the sun was shining that day, and it all lined up that way. So that's what that snot bubble is. But the way that linear algorithm works, it's much like a CD. I had a time in Nashville, and I love compact discs. I love music. But as a teenager, I knew compact discs were coming, and I stopped even buying albums as a late teen. When I got a compact disc, I was fascinated, because you can actually hold up a lot of compact discs, and there'll be a physical hole in that gold foil, not the center hole, but there'll be imperfections. Unless you buy from there's different companies that don't do that. But anyway, classical companies generally have better quality CDs. That hole is missing some information, and there's ones and zeros in front of it, and the little chip inside your 50-year-old CD player, which is not AI, smart enough to know that these ones and zeros were here and these ones and zeros are there. Therefore, this must be what's in the center of that hole. And as the laser goes over it, you never hear it pop or crack or hiss, ever. So that's the beauty of an algorithm. Same goes with a picture on an algorithm. If there's a hole in there or a missing pixel, the program just says, well, all the other pixels around it are this, therefore it must be this. And it could see holes and hairs. So it's just time. It just took time. And so I would say this. So you ask about Diamant. Diamant's a great company. Part of the process that really sold me is I watched a demonstration where there was a physical burn hole in the film, and then they used the frames before it and the frames after it, And even if there's movement in the frame, they had complete flexibility to adjust all the axes within it, where they could borrow the components from the forward and backwards in that whole frame, and you never know that hole is there. And so when they restored Metropolis, I believe there was 20 some copies that they used, and it gets down to some parts. There's just different parts, different people have them. The film industry is different like that compared to the Bigfoot industry. If everybody in the Bigfoot canoe would row in the same direction, we could have compiled a bunch of copies and done a remake of this a long, long, long time ago. But I'm going to do it, and it will be as master quality. When I do this, I want to think that Roger Patterson is alive, and I better say that because a chap came in late night in England, and he saw my video, mate, and he had to put his thing out there. It was just incredibly wrong. Everything he got was wrong. He showed Bob Hieronymus and said it was Roger Patterson in his later years on his ranch. And I thought, oh, bless his little heart. Bless his heart. That's what we say.
The funny thing is, it doesn't matter what the misinformation is. There's going to be 1,000 or more people out there that see it and believe it's true, and then they will roll with it and convince other people.
Yeah, his algorithm was definitely off. Anyway, I want to do this for Roger, and as much as I would like him to be able to put his arm around me and go, "Thanks, man. That's what I wanted." I want to show it just like he shot it, pristine. Then we're going to go from there, and all the different versions of slowing it down, stabilizing it. The film's scratched. It's got it's shrank. It's warped. It's got stains. It's got physical stains. It's got mold. And Diamant was the company that had a solution for every bit of that. We have stain remover. Now you go and you can remove the stains, but then you have to go through once again by hand and look at it, and you'll see yellow pop up. That's what I refer to as stain. There's actually yellow staining, and tell it do this, and it'll then remove it like with the rest. So this is the time-consuming part. But no, I just if you don't ask, the answer is definitely no. And I called and said, "Hey, I'm your American brother. Don't you want to work with me?" So, and here we go down the road. I think they probably said, "We think he's crazy, but it's only 1 minute." So, hey, works for me, man. So,
Alex, what's on your mind, buddy?
Yeah. Well, I had a couple questions about. I know you said you've spoken with Bill Munns, and I know he did some scans, frame by frame scans. I was wondering how many or how. Do you know how many prints that he had scanned, and can you tell people that you're talking to how you differentiate your process of from what he was doing?
Yes, from what I know about Bill, he used. He scanned the film on a flatbed scanner, 3 frames at a time for his archive. He's got many, many copies of it from different people, including Mrs. Patterson. Mm. That was at least 10 years ago, 15 years ago now. And it's a quantum world ahead of that. This is one of the things about in choosing the camera system that I chose. I knew people were going to pick it apart. There's no reflection upon anything Bill has, but I also will be giving copies of this away into 3 different groups. So in the future, they can there'll be something else out there to do with it, and I'm going to print it back with the laser Airflex laser color printer, so it can also be on film, just like it is. So, I'm going to go deep on this, and it's just part of the process. There's a lot of little Easter egg things I'm going to do to make some things right with a lot of different groups on this, I think. So, and I would ultimately like to have people have it, if they don't turn it into, advertising for new cars or something like that. That's not the intent purpose. This is the most important in my mind. And a lot of the world is down to 2 pieces of film. I know how the other one ended. This one is absolutely the best, and it is the most important. It tells us more of who we are, and I want to get to that level of discussion with it. I want to get on to that, and I will, but I understand this is a process. I used to have an English teacher, and his name was Fred Smith, and he did construction work. So he would go to work after he taught all day. But so he'd come into his first class, and he called us all hammerheads and veggies, for as in vegetables. And so he would do his first lesson. He would record it on a tape recorder, and then kick back for the other 5 classes and eat aspirins and play his tape recorder and pause it for questions. And he was just a real character. But I thought, that's brilliant, man, because I'm going to make these videos I'm going to say, and then they're on my channel. It's called Todd Gatewood. I'll have videos that people can go to and see all this stuff, so we can.
I'm a little bit dumbfounded with even having this conversation with you, because for so long our only copy is what we've seen so far. And just to know that this is where we're headed, I'm super excited about it. But here's a component. I want all my listeners to know that this is not just an interview with these two gentlemen. I think I know who they are. We've had enough personal conversations that didn't involve Bigfoot. We've talked about Todd and I've talked about his dog. We've talked about his farm. We've talked about places he's gone in the Kiamichi Mountains. We've had other discussions way beyond Bigfoot, where I'm reading a person, and that's what I do. I read people, and and a lot of times I feel like I'm on point. I wouldn't have these guys here on my show if I thought something wasn't right.
Thanks, Ray.
I believe in this. And as far as knowing Alex, I'm glad we've got the 2 year relationship that we have. I couldn't be happier with where we're headed on our documentary. We've been working on it for a couple of years now. Here's my dream, and it's just a dream. There's so many hurdles that have to be jumped and hoops that have to be jumped through. My dream is to finish up our documentary at Bluff Creek, doing a weeks long investigation there with our equipment and thermal drones, and have Todd there and going over the revelations that has been uncovered on site. You talk about a bucket list that I could go ahead and just call it quits after that.
It'll be fun. It'll be fun, but don't quit. That's part of the clause. So I want to say one thing, Alex. This is a print behind me of what they call 352.
Yeah.
And Renee DeHenden didn't copy the film. He didn't. He misnumbered it. So how many frames it actually has is dependent upon if you've got the version that's got a couple of frames clipped off the front for light leak, or a couple of frames clipped off the back for the same reason. As you know, when a film starts, there's just a little bit of light edge on there. This another thing. People have said, look, there's other cameras. No, that was a Sony. That was a not Sony. I wish that was a Kodak, and it was exactly as Roger said, because we know from M.K. Davis that took this the basis of this photograph. Up in this corner up in here, there's a little half moon knock, and all camera manufacturers on the film gates had a little identifying shape, so you knew when the film came through. Oh, that was shot on a Bolex. Oh, that was shot on this, that, or the other. So we know exactly what kind of camera it was. There's no mystery there. Bill talks about that. Bill went out in the groups, and he actually, in 2009, was looking for a 1947 cinematographer's handbook and manual, which I just got. So I told him, you can have it, Bill, when I'm done. Whoops. So that was one thing he was wanting to get to kind of solve some of that controversy. So it's definitely shot on that Kodak. Alex, as you know, when I was talking about the software can use parts of a frame where there's a hole, just like this fantastic off the master copy and the portrait and other scans that I have some that Bill's given me. Those scenes can then be expanded upon, as people don't really quite realize. And so what's jumbling and fuzzy, well, you're going to slow it down, and if it's fuzzy, then we're going to use a little magic like that, and it's going to be stunning. To what degree? Well, I don't want it to look fake. I mean, you can overdo everything, you can oversaturate all that stuff. I want it to look as best as it can like that in our modern day world as well as old school. So we're going to get to see it all. So that's what I'm kind of excited about, because these frames, the face, all this is in, Bill Munn's early scans that I've got. I've put in my ad. There's I don't know if Randy will cut it into this interview or not, but there's some commercials I made, little 1 minute teasers, and in one of them I used one of Bill's scans of the early walk scene, because we were talking about tracks and so forth, where you can just see the pebbles and you see everything, and it's down to there's a stream on the right, and if you look on the map, you'll see where you're right at the bend in the stream, and you see the water running in that, and then he goes to run over that stream, over that creek there, or creek as they like to call it, and there's a couple frames of just the creek that no one really focused on, so we're going to get to see some of that. There is something in there that I've discovered that I showed Randy. I shared with him, and he's been good enough to really keep it under his hat, that I reached out just yesterday and to Dr. Meldrum, and he said, "Hey, I'm game. I've got that a little clip of footage, Randy, that I sent you that I've improved upon a little bit, because what it does show is fantastic, and I'm going to have Dr. Don Jeffrey Meldrum take a look at it and visit with him, and then I'll kind of let everyone. I can't give it away now what it is, but it's there. You can't chop those pieces out and throw them away, because it's in there. So there's stuff there. Patty's there. You see her walking through the whole film. So that's going to be kind of exciting. That's one of the reasons I call it unseen. There is no extra footage of that, and it's going to definitely be from the standpoint of the Native Americans, and they're the ones that have told us about it, and they're the ones that know the most about it and have lived with them before the whites came here. I start out my documentary that way, from their standpoint, from a dear friend of mine. God rest his soul, Gary Beaver, who's passed away. He was a longtime resident of Colville Reservation in Washington. Okay. So yes, in the video will start out with Gary narrating, and I will say I used AI for his voice, and I think it's lovely. So, it's one of those things, Alex, the one when you're editing, and it's like, you got your soundtrack and you've got your, crossfades, and you're pulling scenes in, and then you watch it back and you're like, oh wow, it's falling together. Yeah, I like this. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Before there was a record of time, our people have been living with the Sasquatch people. They are just like us, but completely different. They know they can scare a human to death by their appearance alone. In the late 1700s, they held a meeting with our elders. The Sasquatch said they will no longer dance or participate with us in our ceremonies or wrestle our braves. They said the whites and their guns were too many.
I'm talking to Randy rather frequently, and because he's really a unique researcher. There's other groups, and this is where you start hurting feelings if you don't mention people's names. I've found out. There's other groups, but I really like what Randy's doing as well, and he's accessible, or at least he was to me. And so, as research, and going back to the Native American ideals, Randy has done something. He's thought this all the way through to what happens when I make contact, and this is very, very. I don't think people really realize. What do you do next? It's like you ask, how'd you get with this company and all that? Well, there's phase one, and then now there's phase two. Randy's already thought that through as far as that goes, on what to do if he makes contact with one. And I think that research wise is where it's going. That's where it needs to go. In my opinion, we're gonna learn a lot that way. So research wise, in the field, I live near the Kiamichis. He loves the Kiamichis. I'm hoping this opens up a lot for me and going and traveling. People reach out to me. So, and I'm open, I'm accessible. I'll visit with anyone about Bigfoot. It seems like, you know how it is when you go to those dinner parties where no one wants to talk about Bigfoot.
They suck.
They suck. Who are those people? So yeah, yeah, no. So I'm looking forward to a lot of stuff. This and beyond. I just have a mentally myopic on this of finish it and not try to get too many side deals going or whatnot. So and I can't. And I also so yeah, that's that. So
Yeah, you can't be stretched too thin when you're focused. I mean, I'm the same way. My God, I get focused on one thing, and I've got blinders on. It's really hard for me to stretch myself out in too many different directions until I get one project done.
yeah, yeah. I'd like to see Bigfooters take a chill pill and be a little nicer to each other. And s- you know, uh, it's just so easy to get hot. There's where there's a site on Bluff. Alex, you've been to Bluff Creek.
I have not been there. No, that's definitely on a bucket list for me. I've
Okay.
been, yeah,
Well, hopefully we're going to have that campfire there.
yeah.
So Peter Byrne walked it from the bridge, and he's military trained. He logged it as 2.1 miles. There's a group out of really smart people who have it just a little bit around the bend of that. I think. I don't know. I haven't put, but it's not worth getting mad at anybody for. And I'd like to say this as well. Cliff Barackman said something once upon a time, and he said that there are no experts in Bigfoot. And I'm just going to say at this point, Cliff, I love you, babe. There are. You're one of them. And there's all kinds of experts. Randy's an expert. MK Davis, everybody, I've said his name at least 10 times now. We're getting close. So I've hit my quota on that. But, he's an absolute expert on this film. Hey, by the way, if I don't agree with MK on everything, well, everybody doesn't go to the same church. Some people go to synagogues or mosques, and we're still friends. So, and that has nothing to do with it. It's an example that you can still, in today's world, I want people to realize something. You don't just because a person does not think like you on a topic does not mean that you can't be friends. That's it. Just, we've become this polarized world of political know-it-alls. And look, man, just say, remember back in the days when you didn't even talk about certain things like that. That wasn't talk, and it shouldn't be. And it's all designed to polarize people. We need to come together because if we're going to make progress in this topic, which it's going to be with experts like Randy, who are going to make communication, it's going to happen. I feel positive about it. So
That's great.
Well, I'm glad you're confident about it. I'm not too confident, but hey, uh, I can tell you, Alex has been so busy this last couple of years, and he's fit in these camp outs with us where we come in and do some filming for a short while, all within him being extremely busy trying to edit and put this film together that he's been working on. But I know that's coming to an end very soon. When it comes to an end, I believe this year we're really going to hit the ground running with some of the things that that we're going to be doing. So we've
Definitely.
got that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have an anecdote for you about, Todd, what kind of phone do you have?
iPhone.
iPhone. Okay, great. So you're aware of like the Apple Intelligence thing when you open up a photo and it pings and it tells you it's an animal in the photo. So I took what you posted, that the frame, and I put it in a thing with how you can see.
Sure.
I don't know if you've seen this on the Apple, but the detail on that image is so great that the Apple Intelligence reads it as an animal because of the fur, because of the actual. So you can see that the actual animal icon pops up when it's there because of the actual oil and that's reading on the fur, and and I put it next to, like, say, this silly looking thing, which absolutely does not pop up. See, so you see at the bottom, there's no animal. It won't do that for AI. So in other words, it will only do that for real, like real imagery that it's reading.
we got to remember that so many people that see these and don't shoot them are like, I thought it was a guy in a hairy suit.
It's so
Because
crazy.
it looks like a man. And that's over and over and over and over. It only was called an ape back in 68 or so or 71 when John Green put his book out. In Argosy magazine, Ivan T. Sanderson, the author of that, who was in World War II, was a member of the OSS, which is the predecessor of the CIA, was no dummy. He talked to the Department of the Interior about this whole thing and took the film to them, and they said, we're not even going to comment on the humanity of it now. End of that discussion.
Yeah.
So it was very happily thought of as a monkey. It's really wrong. It's derogatory. It goes against it really.
So when the film was taken, it was such a limited knowledge about relic hominid at the time, right?
Yeah.
In 1967, the scientific paradigm was so limited, the scope on what on what the lineage was and what it could possibly be, and what primates, and really the vast number of
the depth of knowledge was like this.
Yeah, right. And so and this specific film, it predated discoveries that came, just a couple of years later in fossil discoveries that came later that it was completely consistent with. It had, I don't know, I think something like 6 unique combinations of traits that were not yet discovered scientifically. And so like the upper body that's more apish, but the lower body that's more human. And those were all discoveries that just were not made. Those were what we consider, ancient human or relatives of ours. But at the time in 1967 when it was taken, that didn't even exist. That was not there. It was either ape or man. And
yeah.
So, but when I was bringing that up, I wasn't bringing that up to say the Apple iPhone is saying that's an animal. What I was really saying is, it's what I think is amazing about it is that the Apple iPhone is recognizing it as a living organism. It's recognizing that that's living hair or like that. That's real and not and organic and not some kind of costume. Because even that alone, even costume, this is one of the things for me. One of the reasons the film was so intriguing to me from the beginning is just knowing what goes into actual costume making and what goes into actual, the whole process of that. And even today, trying to just actually create like organic oil living, living looking fur and hair on something that's not. It is such a difficult thing to do.
Yeah, people say you drew that. Like you've seen that version. It's terrible. It's not possible. So yeah, no, it can see it. That's all it is. It can see it. And I'm not. My dad used to say, I don't know how you are so good on these computers or how you do that. And I'd say, well, hey, Pops, you just got to think like a computer. And it's really true. But also, if you want to have luck with Bigfoot, go out there looking for a big giant ape. You'll get the same results that they get every week on TV. If you want to go out there and get results, think like Randy Harrington and realize you're dealing with a superior, you're dealing with a human type, and think like a Sasquatch human.
You know how reaction videos is such a huge thing where people do reaction videos to music or reaction videos to a movie?
Yeah.
When you get done with this process and you've even got it down, we should come back as this panel of 3 or maybe even and show it frame for frame and us have a reaction video about what we're seeing when we see it and discuss each component of that 1 minute long film.
Yeah, we can do a director's narrative type thing. I'll probably be engaged in that quite a bit. I'm definitely going to do it in the film because it's 10 minutes. Alex knows, like, ooh, I got this much time to go. But yeah, you know how you feel. You sit down one day and some days you maybe churn out 30 seconds or 5 minutes. It's just different. So, but yeah, I would love that. And I will definitely come back and do this with you, Randy, before, after all that, anytime you want. Like I said, I'm accessible. I would recommend people review some of your older videos, because Randy has been showing people that the Sasquatch use techniques such as flanking. They are strategic in the way they move, the way they position themselves. Hairy and Woodnox does not equate to stupid. So it's just, I want people to start thinking like Sasquatch, whatever that means. I just don't know right now. So, but yeah, try it. We're going to try that.
Okay.
Going forward.
Fantastic. I think this is a great stopping point. I am going to show all of the videos that we've talked about. If I can't place them within the conversation, I'm going to play them all at the end so everybody can see all of the components of what we've been talking about throughout this whole thing. Do you have any final words, Alex?
No, I thank you so much. And honestly, keep up the great work. I'm so excited for what you're doing. And again, people want to think that this is some kind of hoax. The crazy thing is how much more information and how much more convincing it becomes as technology is developed. And there's no way if these guys could have created anything close to what you see on that film, that they would have put it out in a shaky, hard to see. You don't.
Why would they have stopped there?
You can't count. You can't count on technology. 50 years from now, making you look more convincing, or convincing scientists and biologists. The more and more it comes out about it. So it's just it's amazing what I'm thrilled to see that.
Thank you.
Yeah, but what you're doing now is great.
I want to say this to everybody out there, and who Dr. Jeffrey Meldrum, who I respect and we can all learn a ton from, worked with a young man named Mr. Tien, and they put together a work of, like MK did, where he took one frame and then cut out Patty walking across that frame, so the frame was locked still. But they used AI. They set it all over the place. They used artificial intelligence to do that, and I didn't hear anybody cry. And I show up with a great picture, and they, it's AI. You didn't do that. It's like, oh man, what's the deal with you guys? No, it's not. So
speaking of Dr. Meldrum, I sat in on a conference presentation that he gave down in Honobia, Oklahoma, way back in 2008, 2009, and he addressed the way her foot looked when her foot is raised up. I don't know if he's addressed it in any other presentation. I was floored. He showed chimpanzees, and he showed pictures of chimpanzees that were stepping, whether it be in sand or whatever, and one of their feet were up, and it was the same colored gray, plasticky looking foot that was seen on Patty. And he was describing how, so from that moment on, I didn't need to hear all the naysayers saying, but her foot, the foot look, because I was convinced by what Dr. Meldrum presented to me that that's the way it looks even on a chimpanzee that we know is real. So it's amazing how people will get locked in on one thing, and then they just keep rolling, and they demand that that you fall in line and all that kind of stuff.
Well, let's listen to him. He's one of those experts. So
yeah. People are very afraid. People are afraid of their own paradigm shifts. I think that's really the uphill battle. Is getting people up over their own fear of having to face that the world isn't exactly the way that they've always thought it was. So, yeah. But yeah, no, it's amazing.
All righty, everybody. This is where we're going to go ahead and seal the deal. And I appreciate both you guys' area of expertise. You added tremendously to this, Alex, and thank you, because that leaves less time that I look like a fool without having any good quality questions.
Listen, man, cut this in. I want to say Alex is the real filmmaker. He's the real professional. He's in the trenches every day doing this. You're looking at a chronically obsessed person here who's got an overly passionate fixation on doing something is not Alex Merkin. So, Alex, it's been an honor to be here with you. Thank you.
It's been my honor. Thank you so much. Thank you for the kind words, but seriously, thank you for the work you're doing, because I'm so thrilled. Yeah. So
Yeah. Right on.
Me too. All right. Sayonara.
All right, guys.
Take care.
Talk soon.
All
Reach
right.
out.
Leaping round the room like an eat-up baboon. Him and his dancing, yelling, I have no regrets. I do it for the love, the rush, the buzz, the hush. Whatever turns my knees so much to hit the lift, even if you gotta sift through the shit to get to the twist. The smile high like it's your last line, but you never get another try. Do it live, do it for the ride.